Hey folks, how you doing? It's Jeremy Kirkland. You're listening to Blammo. I hope you all are ready for a good week. We're going to have a good week. We're going to do this. I just got back from New York City the other day. I was out there for a little bit of work. But I got some fun stuff in there, you know. Had a nice dinner with some friends. Watched the Knicks win, which is pretty perfect. I will say, before someone starts DMing me or whatever, look, I was a Nets fan for years. Still am. Had season tickets for a while, and no flex, but I was locked in. But it's nice to see the Knicks just, you know, everyone's a little bit happier when the Knicks are winning. It was great. So look, who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the series, but you know, we're all feeling good. So other things I got to do out there. Finally, yes, got to do a pod with Chris Green of Ven.Space. Look, Ven.Space continues to be one of the most hyped up and talked about stores in the country. I mean, he was written about in the New York Times and places like Blackbird Spy Plane and just everywhere has been talking about Ven.Space. I mean, he's got some of the brands that everyone obsesses over, many which are only with him. But man, we just got into so much stuff. It was really good. But I'll say one thing that he really called out, and I think a lot of people are feeling this too lately, is there's just kind of been this shift lately in terms of how we all shop, specifically in menswear, from folks just wanting more of an experience, right? Less of a transaction, more of just a vibe. And I really don't like using that word, but it's kind of true. And Chris really has it. I mean, Ven.Space is quite the experience. Great store, great product, good staff. It was fun. So I had a great time. Chris and I discuss how Ven.Space got going. We talk retail philosophies, buying stuff in person, and why he's not online yet. All right, folks, let's go. Do you work out in the morning?
I do run in the mornings, yes.
You're a runner? A real one?
Yes, a real one.
Damn.
Like 40 miles a week.
40 miles a week you run?
Yes.
Holy shit.
I just ran a half marathon, the Brooklyn half marathon.
How do you do this with your knees?
You just do it.
Do you lift?
No.
Do you strength train?
No, I don't. I don't do any of that. I don't stretch. I literally just run. I don't know if it's like a mental thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mental thing. Yeah, I can tell if I take a couple weeks off, I can tell that I start to spiral a bit.
Yeah.
And it's just like in the everyday. And I'm like, oh, it's because I haven't been running.
What is your motivation for running?
Honestly, I started getting back into it because after having a second kid, I just got heavy. I got really heavy. I ran in college. So like that, okay. Yeah, like I went to college to run. Like
really?
I got recruited to run. Yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to VMI.
Wow.
Yeah, Virginia Military Institute. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, but I went there and I ran. I won the Southern Conference. Come on, man. I'm a Southern Conference champion in the 800 and the 4x4 and, well, team championship doesn't really count, but my points counted. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a fun fact.
I was good.
I have never scored a point in anything.
Oh, come on.
No. And I'm not here looking for sympathy. I'm just saying.
A point in anything, in any sport.
I don't think
anything
so.
You've participated in.
Well, I mean, like in terms of a competition. Yeah, no.
Oh.
This is why I do a podcast. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great. What an intro. And this is why I do a podcast.
Yeah.
Because this is where I'm scoring my points.
Well, it's if we can even call it that. But yeah, it's I'm putting my phone on DND.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I loved sports, but it just never, I feel like a lot of people's lives, especially in how they relate to clothes, for me, seem to formulate around high school.
Mm.
In my high school experience, I was mad into like punk rock and I think this is what I would have been like.
What year did you graduate?
High school?
Yeah,
04.
High school, 04, okay.
So it was, yeah, and then I moved here.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know, I was into like Diesel and Saves the Day and Midtown and
Pop
Bad
punk.
Brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post-hardcore pop punk.
Yeah. So I mean, that was like my cultural identity.
Lifetime.
Yeah.
stuff like that.
It was all music. And so I would go to shows and
Yeah.
I would just, all my style came from wanting to look like either skateboarders like Andrew Reynolds or like rock stars.
Mhm.
So it was like Interpol. you know?
Well, that's a different. The Interpol is like the way Interpol dressed is different than the post-hardcore pop punk scene.
Oh, yeah.
Way different.
Yeah.
Even though it was like the same world, they just had more money.
Yeah.
You know, and they were wearing tight jeans, crop blazer.
Yep.
Early.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the hardcore kids weren't wearing that. And when they're coming out of hardcore going into like the emo shit, they definitely weren't wearing that.
Yeah. What were you wearing in high school?
Man, I graduated high school in 97.
Okay.
But I was also into, it's funny because I was listening to those same bands, but those bands were starting then.
Yeah.
So like in Richmond, there was a really big hardcore scene. We had Count Me Out, which was a big band. We had...
You were in the hardcore scene.
Yeah, I used to go to shows all the time. But I remember, like, I was definitely straight edge then.
Okay.
And, like, New Balance was the absolute rage. Like, New Balance shoes, matching New Balance hat, baggy jeans, zip hood, some sort of track jacket on top of it. It was this weird mix of, like...
Were people wearing North Face fleeces, Denali's?
Yeah, they were wearing North Face fleeces, but it was like this weird mix of... It wasn't quite like the football culture of like Stone Island, but it was like around the peripheral of what it was. It was just too expensive and it was too hard to get. But it was that vibe of like, what's a trackie that you can wear with this stuff? There was definitely a lot of like windbreakerage in there. Umbro windbreakerage for sure. Adidas windbreakerage for sure.
There was Kappa.
Yeah. Kappa again was foreign,
Yeah.
And then I specifically remember like this idea of wearing, because it went from like really baggy jeans to then really quickly really tight skinny jeans.
Yeah.
And it was like guys were buying girls' jeans.
Oh yeah, I would wear Mud.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was like the Target brand.
Yeah.
I would because I couldn't afford the Diesel ones were I think they were called Fanker.
Yep.
And yeah, I would go to Chicago to get my clothes because there was nothing in St. Louis at the time. But yeah, that was an interesting time. But I feel like for me and for a lot of other people I know, like that's like puts you on that. I was like, oh, I can look fucking cool. It was like I have these. I mean, what hindsight now? Who knows how I looked? But I was like, oh, I'm cool. I've looked at pictures from back then, and it's funny. Like you're graduating high school and I was graduating college. Yeah.
So my style progression had changed a bit because
you were like, I'm a man now.
No, I mean, I tried to be.
Sure.
I tried to be. But again, like I remember I got a DKNY leather jacket, like leather blazer, and I fucking thought I thought I was it. That was it. It was the coolest thing I've ever had.
I think you were.
Well, at that moment in time, I was.
Yeah.
And it came from the outlet, of course, because that's what I could afford. But it was a piece. But I mean, it's funny because I started working retail in '96, so I was still in high school when I started working retail.
Where'd you work retail?
It was called Blues. It turned into Neat Supply. It was recycled denim. So like being in that culture of, we were doing reworked Levi's, vintage Levi's, and selling them like new. That's the influence. And they're the two owners, Jason Solomon and Chris Pasola. Like Chris was the business guy, and he definitely liked the stuff, but like it wasn't like his thing. But Jason, he was, man, that guy was a nerd, and like in all the best ways. Like he was into like over dyeing, like he was like rust dyeing and coffee dyeing, and like he would like, oh, let me see these jeans. I'm gonna like take these coffee grounds and like drive them into your jeans, and we would do this stuff in like the parking lot behind the store.
Oh my god,
to learn. And like as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, like was kind of cool to see. And it was funny. Like I thought he was so old. The guy was like 8 years older than me.
Yeah,
And when you get like to where I am now in my 40s, that gap is like nothing.
It's true.
It's
very
what I mean? It's like that gap is nothing. But when you're 17 and that guy's like 25, you're like, dude, that guy's holy shit. He like knows everything. You know what I mean? When, he's just figuring his own shit out and like who he is as a person. But like he definitely really like sparked that enlightenment of, okay, there's product out there, and then you can change the product, and there's different techniques to how you make this product. He was like really like into sharing that knowledge, the product knowledge, with the groms of the store and everybody at the store. So
Yeah.
which was really cool to see. Like it was crazy. And then, working there, I worked there off and on all throughout high school, all throughout college.
Mm-hmm.
And then even out of college, I mean, I ended up going to work for them full time, like eventually, being their buyer. And then eventually, like towards the end of my career, I was there as well. I came back after I moved to New York. I left Need Supply for a few years and came to New York to work for Club Monaco and then East Dane. But then I came back to work for
East Dane.
Yeah, East Dane. Oof.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that place is crazy. But
yeah, because you're the hometown hero in terms of the full retail career.
Yeah.
And also
working in the shop. I mean, I think honestly, like what I have here, like I know I'm not online at this point in time, but like working in the store is like where you learn and you learn. I think to me, it's like product really, really matters. And I think when you work in the store and you have your hands on the product and you get to see it over seasons and you get to see the development, especially like if you're carrying a brand for 4 or 5 years, you get to see the development, whether it's like owner designer or if it's a big house like a Dries, like you get to see how a new designer will actually touch that brand.
Mm-hmm.
And like that knowledge is invaluable. You don't get that knowledge looking at a spreadsheet. You don't get that knowledge going to college and learning about it at FIT or something like that. You get that knowledge being in the store and seeing the product and like being with the true customer who's walking out the door with a bag.
I was going to say, because that
is like huge, leaps and bounds huge. That knowledge, like to be able to have that, you're able to then apply that to your different sector of, let's say, oh, I want to go into marketing communications. Having that experience of working in a store level, your storytelling in marketing communications will be sharper, will be better, will be more pointed.
Yeah.
Having that knowledge, being a merchandiser or buyer is literally like, you can't beat it. And where everybody has like these digital, platforms and they're selling online, they don't really know who their customer is. They know what they buy, but they don't know why they're buying it. There's no like interaction to be like, hey, why are you actually purchasing this? Are you purchasing this to fill a void? Are you purchasing this for a need? Is it for an event? Is it because you like how it's made? And because that to me is like, if you understand why somebody's purchasing something, you can understand why they're purchasing across various brands. And then you can teach them and show them, okay, you like this technique or you like this fabric. We have X, Y, and Z brand that does something similar, feels something similar. And you can kind of move them through your world of assortment rather than just being, oh, I only like said brand and I only fuck with said brand.
Yeah.
I only wear said brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I think there is a real struggle that happens, and especially when I'll go, to an online store, I won't name names, and I'll get a pop-up and it'll be like, hey, more or less, why are you here? I mean, it doesn't say that exactly, but it'll be like, hey, what are you looking for? What can we help you find?
And then it'll say 10% off at the bottom. Or 15% off.
And it's like, give
us
your email for this thing.
For sure.
And the amount of people, it's funny because one of those, this is a side note, one of those people who makes a plugin like that had to disable Apple relay addresses, because if you have an Apple account, you can just essentially make a new email, like a one-time use email address, and then have
the discount.
Every time
you
get
shop.
the discount.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every time you shop.
And so like discounts as a whole already, it's nice to get a personal discount for, but like it's not, it's a weird promotion to like force people to buy. But you go on there and it'll be like, hey, why are you here? And I hate that with a passion. But if I go into a physical store and someone's like, hey, what's up? What can we do? Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's, to me, I like physical retail, I think is, I mean, it's the baseline. And if you can nail that and you can nail that interaction, then you can do the next part, which is digital. And you can figure out what your digital is compared to your physical. And if they can speak to each other and if they can meet the same expectation of what your physical is. Honestly, like you can't top physical retail. You can't top that interaction, the communication, the trust that you gain between each other, because it's not just, in my mind, yes, it's as a proprietor, I want to sell stuff. But at the end of the day, I want to sell the right things to the right people. And that's not being like a class thing. It's like to the people who actually want to use that garment and have an end use for it and actually wear it and care about it and love it. That's the right people.
Well, And I think for you, and I won't speak for you, but especially as we were chatting earlier, you were talking about, like, you kept saying the community over and over again. Because, I mean, it sounds like you really do view Ven.Space, which is where we're recording, by the way, as like, this is a store for the neighborhood. Like, it is a destination spot for many people.
It's a destination spot, but I set it up in my neighborhood because I wanted something local. I wanted something that I wanted to have the same shopping experience in.
Yeah.
And selfishly around the corner. And I live in this neighborhood. I love this neighborhood. And I just think there's opportunity here. And I look at, you look at great restaurants.
Right.
They'll set up in their location, and that's where they are. And people will come to them, and then you get your locals who are there all the time. And that's kind of how I view it, is like, that's how a great business is built, is like, if you're known to have something wonderful, such as an experience or a curation or something like that, doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
But my goal for setting this up was like, I thought there was just so much opportunity in this zone.
Mm-hmm.
That guys in this zone weren't being serviced or catered to. And I wanted to bring my point of view of what the, world market is for brands.
Right.
Here to Carroll Gardens. It's Carroll Gardens is an amazing neighborhood. And I have Brooklyn Heights right around, right up the hill, Cobble Hill, Borum Hill, Prospect Heights, Fort Greene, all those areas, they're all super close. They're all walkable. And even, if you think about Soho's 5 stops away on the F train, 20 minutes.
Yep.
It's nothing. I don't get the tourist traffic that a Soho will get, but that's okay. Well,
and also, and I'll say this as a person who's worked in various retail stores in New York and in other cities, like, it's kind of nice to be a little bit more of a destination spot, because there's more of an intentionality when people are coming in and shopping. Like, I'll say, like, from my experience when I worked at the Armory, we were on Duane, we were in Tribeca, but
you guys were deep though.
Yeah.
You were deep, which is cool.
Yeah. You kind of had to force yourself to go there.
You had to go. Yeah. Which, honestly, I think that portion of it, when the person's made the dedication to go, that allows you to, like, it just allows the customer to be more open.
Yeah.
And to have those conversations and to be more open in terms of, like, hey, how are you doing? What are you up to? What are you looking for? Because, like, that's what we really care about.
Yeah.
I really care about that aspect of it. It's not just like hey, you're coming in for a transaction, in and out, buy, thank you. It is like, what's the intent? What are you trying to do? Like, what are you into? What are you looking for? What's the hole you're trying to fill, the need?
Were a lot of people that were coming here, like the locals and stuff, I imagine, maybe, like, incorrectly, that this was somewhat of their first experience, though, with some of these brands, because you have brands that are the only place.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's, honestly, to me, that's been the coolest experience so far, is like the random, late 50s, early 60s guy who comes in and falls in love with what we have and doesn't know the brands.
Yeah.
I mean, I can recall numerous times a guy coming in and, like, walks out with 4 or 5 Oral-E pieces just because of the fit, the color, everything. And he's like, this stuff is so amazing.
Right.
I've never heard of it. How have I never heard of it? And I'm like, that's great. Like, you've discovered something and you've fallen in love with it. And then they come back and they're like, what's that great brand again? Let me try something else on from them. And then, like, what else is in the store that's like that great brand? What else, like, where else can I, like, look at things that are like that? And it's really exciting to see guys like that, because, that excitement, that joy is, like, why I wanted to open a shop, was that portion of it.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways, and I see this too sometimes when I'll talk to people like our listeners online, we're in this era where it's pretty easy to get access to any information and almost any object, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more and more rare for someone to get to experience something, especially physically, like a brand, that they have no idea who it is. I mean, I love new brands. I'm just like, oh, how are they making this? And whether it's like a Japanese brand or French brand or whatever, I mean, just getting to see something else from a different perspective, especially in which sometimes for me, it feels like I'm dominated by, like, an LVMH Kering world.
Well, I mean, yeah, because they have the marketing dollars to dominate those touch points, I think about that as, like, they market so hard.
Yeah.
And they're marketing for relevancy.
Yeah.
they're not marketing the quality. They're marketing for relevancy, and they're marketing for status, where I think the brands that I have in my assortment, if they were to market, they're marketing towards quality, which is a different point of view. Yeah, some of them do image, but mainly their message is going to be quality, which I think is a different take on this industry. It's like, I want to service guys who are looking for quality, not just like recognition. There is some of that goes on, honestly, like with some of the styles that we carry. Like people, I want the recognition because within my circle or within my group or my peripheral of who I speak to, like they know the brand, and like you'll get some recognition for wearing like said, bright red Orly jacket.
Right.
It's like, oh, you get the recognition for that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, 3 seasons from now, that jacket's still going to be a high quality jacket. And it's going to be made really well. The fabric's going to be beautiful. The color saturation is still going to be there. So I think, that will die down a bit, and it'll be more about, oh my God, this thing is so nice. And I keep going back to it because it fits so well. And I like how it's like now formed to myself. Now, what's my next piece from them?
Yeah. And I mean, to talk a bit about the origin of Ven.Space, because you had worked in, murder's row of retail stores and really created quite the career name for yourself across all the other brands. As you were starting Ven.Space, how were you able to convince some of these brands to exist with you?
It's funny, like...
Wait a second. I got to get my bids in on the Bezel app, but more on that in a minute. I get all sorts of emails and questions from you all, which I love to read and respond. And one thing I constantly get, and even read in the Blamo Slack, is what watch should I buy and where should I get it? It's a wild world out there with all sorts of websites and shops, but I go to Bezel. Bezel is the trusted marketplace for buying and selling your next luxury watch, with expert in-house authentication on every purchase. First off, folks, it's getbezel.com. That's getbezel.com. But I use and recommend Bezel because it's the best of both worlds. You can go to the site and browse a marketplace of luxury watches, over 16,000 of them, by the way, which is a lot. And I know that Bezel is going to authenticate your purchase. Or you can create an account and get connected with your own private client advisor, called the concierge. Because look, making a watch purchase can be confusing, especially when you don't know all the reference numbers. When was this made? Did they use ceramic then? Is it a triple lop, dingle top? What the heck? I don't even know. But they do at Bezel, and they're here to help. Concierge, baby. Look, if looking for your watch to mark a special occasion, or maybe you're just doing research, right? They even have their own journal where you can learn all the ins and outs about Bezel and the brands and all the stuff that's happening right now. But back to my bids. Yes, Bezel now has auctions, and not just any auctions. They got Rolex, they got Cartier, they got Audemars Piguet, all the big dogs and more. So you can discover, bid, and know the Bezel team has got your back with verified in-house authentication. So visit getbezel.com on your smartphone or computer. Bezel, the trusted marketplace for buying or selling your next luxury watch.
When Neat Supply and Totokayo shuttered, mentally I had to pivot. That was like a big emotional break.
Yeah.
Working for Neat Supply in a capacity for basically 25 years,
right?
To have that go away, like that's a huge chunk of my life. That's half my life.
Yeah.
So, emotionally that was a tough moment. And, I teetered between like, what do I do? Cause I put a lot into my effort there and put a lot of my life into that work.
Mm-hmm.
You sacrifice a lot of time and energy, especially when you work somewhere so long.
Yeah.
And you're so tied to one thing, and how it closed down and how it ended wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience for me. I mean, I learned a lot. I'm glad now that I went through it, because I can see a lot of issues that arose and a lot of signs early on that I should have been like, okay, I could see this coming and how to handle that. But my idea for this, it was kind of like initially it was like, oh, what if I started my own thing? What would that look like? What would I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled out my phone and took notes, and I was like, okay, this is my brand matrix. This is what it would look like if
so
I
you really You threw it together.
Yeah, I threw it together, and I put together a brand matrix, and then I put it away and kind of took a break from that idea for a little bit, focused on like my consultancy stuff, family, stuff like that. And then I went back to it, and I looked at it again, and then I wrote another brand matrix off of that. I was like, okay, what's the crossover here? What am I trying to achieve? Is it commerciality? Is it super specialty? Is it quote unquote luxury? Is it price conscious? Like, where do I want to be?
Right.
And then again, I put my phone away and kind of mulled on it for like a week or two. And then I went to my closet and I looked through everything and I was like, okay, I love this. I love this. I don't love that. I don't wear this. I'm into these things. I'm not into these things. And then I did it again. I put another brand matrix together and I said, okay, I've done this exercise a few times and I kept identifying the brands that carried over between, the different exercises. Like, okay, so if I feel that strongly about this and that and this, there's reasons why this is on my list. And that was over a period of a year that I did that. It wasn't just like, oh, I did it one weekend and then that was it. That was over a period of a year. And then life happened, it was during COVID and we'd moved around a bit and then we moved back from Virginia to New York. And I kind of was toying with the idea of doing it. And I started to put together a rough business plan of like, okay, what's the cash needed? What's the ideal target rent? What's the square footage needed? How many SKUs can I get on a rail based off of linear square footage? Just looking at those things and saying, okay, what kind of business do I want to have? How big or small would I want it to be? And then again, I pulled out and looked at the brand matrix one more time. And I was like, I know that I want to be in this neighborhood because this is the neighborhood that I've lived the longest in and I love the most. And, I walked Williamsburg, I walked Fort Greene, I walked Greenpoint. I went to Prospect Heights. I looked around and I kept coming back here and I was like, why would I want to go anywhere else? I just want to be here.
Right.
And looking at the distribution for the brands that I put down on the list, they weren't in Brooklyn really. And I was like, you know what? I think if I can put together a solid idea and get the space that I need, I think there's a way that I can make it work in a small way. And the goal of opening stores, of course you want to make money, like that's the end goal. But for me, it was more about, can it be sustainable in terms of paying rent, paying employees, paying vendors on time, and just keep it going. That's the idea. And I started that with that mentality. So that was like, how small can I be with it still being impactful enough to where I feel good about it? And I put a LOI on a spot, and it fell through. I put another LOI on another spot and it fell through. And then finally it was between this space and another space up the street. And I'd have to thank my broker, Roberto, a million times over, who forced me into the space that was more than what my budget was. But he was like, it's exactly what you need. It's a corner. Cause I'd shared with him kind of my idea.
Yeah.
And it was a corner space. And when I approached the brands going into market, I actually approached them a year before I actually had a space. So I reached out to all the brands that I had on my list before I had a space. And I said, hey, just so you know, I have this idea coming. A lot of them were brands that I'd worked with before. So I had a relationship with them.
Yeah. And because I'll say you have a lot of brands. Like this is not any idea someone could just be like, oh, cool, I'm just going to open a shop and I'll reach out to all these brands. As a person who, from myself speaking, as a person who knows some of the people at these brands, so much of this is trust in the relationship and the expertise of you as the individual who is going to show this brand the correct way. They're going to merchandise it with respect to the brand itself. It's going to be, you can't just reach out to, I won't name any names, and just say, hey, can I sell you? They're like, no.
And honestly, like there was a lot of back and forth. And
I bet.
It was a whole year of me saying, hey, I'm reaching out to put this on your radar. I want you to know that this is my intent. I'm going to have a space when I come into market in a year from now. At that point, I had no space. And at that point, like it was still just a bit of a pipe dream.
Right.
But I put the feelers out to say, hey, because what I did was I looked at the Brooklyn market and I knew there was an opportunity there that no one had grasped.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need to jump on it before someone else does it.
Yeah.
And it needs to be quick and fast. So that's why I reached out well before I had a space, just to put the feelers out there. And I got some great responses and I got some not so great responses. And I got some, we'll see it when we see it kind of things.
Yeah.
But then when I actually went to market I had a lease in hand, I was paying rent at that point. I had a framework for what the store build out was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I had the framework for what my brand matrix was going to be. I had some pretty solid yeses, nothing like concrete. I had some like pretty solid yeses.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went into market and went into the appointments and, the dominoes started to fall, it was like a great feeling. It was like validation for, okay, the time and effort you'd put in, the 24 years you'd put in before, this is where it's starting to pay off. And I do, like, I thank all of the vendors who've worked with me for their initial trust, because that was a huge leap of faith for them to trust, okay, we have a new account in Brooklyn. We're trusting this person who's self-funding. Like, there's no outside investor or anything like that, to set up a shop. Like that's a big swing.
Yeah.
And so I try to repay that in kind with, maintaining healthy business relationships and paying on time and all those kind of things, like doing my part as
paying on time.
Yeah, baby. I gotta have product in here.
Can I just say, for the record, that is super amazing and refreshing, because I don't think that is the norm.
It's not. And I lived the life on the other side of that, where I worked for a company that was notorious for not paying on time. And the strain emotionally that puts on you as a worker is challenging. And I don't ever want to feel that again, because I felt that for a decade of my life. And that's it's not fun. It is part of the business. It totally is. Yeah. And it ebbs and flows. And I think, there's a lot of, requirements for a small business. Like, there's a lot of expectation on me as a small business with some of these vendors where I'm like, that's a little bit egregious.
Yeah. There are weird terms where someone will say 100% up front before we even ship it.
And you're like, I've got some of those, and it's like, at a certain point, I have to explain that I'm not a bank.
Yep.
And that, like, for us to be successful, we have to find like that middle ground.
Completely fair.
I think with some of them we have. With some of them, there's still work to do. But hopefully, I'm showing that trust should be there. Which that's my goal. Yeah. Is my goal is to have a successful brick and mortar that offers great stuff and can pay its bills. That's it.
Something that I want to also ask you about is, like, it sounded like your idea and your plan for a lot of this stuff was happening. You were very much okay with this kind of malleable experience. Where did that become okay for you in your life? Because I know some people where it's like, no, this is my formula. It's not going the formula. I don't know how to. Well, no, A has to lead to B. This isn't working. Like brain fry. Like,
well, I think you can be rigid in some aspects. Yeah, and I think in other things you have to be able to be malleable or to let things go. I think where I want to be rigid is in the experience that people have coming in the shop. So like, if someone has a bad experience, like, that really hurts, pains me, like to the core, because that's what I don't want people. That's literally why I set out to have a retail space, because I wasn't finding a place that would give me the experience that I wanted, that would clientele me in a way that didn't feel selly, that would speak to me in a way that we were on even planes and not trying to, bombard me with over information or actually talk down to me in education. Because that's what I found a lot in a lot of these little sectors and pockets of, like, menswear is, like, people want to just have more information and they want to overspill it on top of you and basically, like, throw a wet blanket on a fire on top of you and just talk down to you so hard.
Yeah.
And I don't love that feeling.
No.
And honestly, the other side was the, I would never judge anyone who walks in the door about what their spend capability is. I like that, to me, is like, I don't know how much money that person has. They could buy the whole shop from under me, and I'm not going to, I want to treat them as the same playing level field as someone who comes in to buy $23 pair of socks.
Yeah.
Like that's where like I was seeing how luxury retail started operating is this like class level.
Yeah.
Where they immediately clock you and they're like, okay, if you're not a known celebrity influencer and you're not a known clientele beforehand, like I'm not going to really give you the time of day or service you or actually treat you on the same level playing field. Where that's not a feeling that I like. For me, again, I have a love and passion for this industry. So I want to share that with people and I want it to be open and I don't want it to feel elitist. So if anybody comes in and feels that way in my space, like that kills me. And like, however we can remedy that and make you feel better, like, let me know.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. And I feel like, cause you sell brands that are wonderful brands, you sell brands that are luxury brands. And I think in many cases, the experience of the brand here is better than the experience of the brand from the brand, solely because there's a lot of, we're in this kind of frothy sort of hype, industry into which you'll go to a store and I'll go to walk in to open the door and then, there's a person at the door and then they're pointing a different direction. And what I don't realize is there's a line of people waiting to get in and they're only letting a certain amount of people in line, or you have to make an appointment and come back at a specific time.
Yeah.
And I get it because they're trying to create a service.
Yeah. Trying to create demand.
And hold that.
And show that there's relevancy.
Sure. But it's also, I'm like, and maybe it's just the whatever person in me, but a part of me is like, fuck you, I'm not coming back.
I get that. And I've had that feeling before. And again, I don't want that feeling for anybody who comes in. And again, like you walk in the door, it's a level playing field for everybody.
Yeah.
Irregardless of like if you buy anything or don't buy anything.
Yeah.
If you're kind, you're going to be treated with kindness. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because obviously, was it a reaction to stuff that happened to you, or did someone at some point was like, "This is how you do"?
I think a little bit of like my personal experience.
Yeah.
And also what I've seen in general. Like I've seen it in action where I'm like, oh, that's not a great experience. And I've seen it in action where I'm like, oh, that is literally the best experience. Like that is how you speak to someone. That's how you have this trust. You create this little bond of trust. And I mean, there is a fine line between when someone comes in and just wants to shop on their own and engaging in them. And I think, you have to understand and be able to read that person enough within the first minute to know how far to go, how far not to go, and how to speak to that person.
Yeah, someone who walks in the shop, but their AirPods are in the whole time.
Which is fine. But I want to make sure everybody's greeted. I want to make sure they feel comfortable. And then from there on out, you can go engage from there.
Yeah.
I think on my end, like I just wasn't getting that experience when I was going into retail stores.
Yeah.
And like at my brand assortment, I think I'd have to go to like 3 or 4 different stores to be able to get kind of everything that I was looking for.
Sure.
So again, I wanted to put it under one roof if I could. That was the goal.
Yeah, you referenced a restaurant earlier. Do you ever see yourself getting into other types of hospitality?
Oh man, I'd love to. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. I mean, there's a building next door that I'm like, oh my God, I would love to have that. What would I do with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
What ideas do I have? I've got a lot of ideas. Like, would I love to have? I wouldn't want like a, cliche cafe or anything like that, but something in the food world. Not your like Instagram coffee shop or anything like that, but like a good sandwich shop or a takeaway spot or like a prepared food thing would be really nice. But is that going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I forcing that? No, I'm focused on this and like making this the best version of what it could be. Cause there's a lot of things that we could do to make it better.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah.
One thing I saw when I came in, so I'd come here the other day and was looking through the stuff. You also have your own brand now. That is a more recent event?
No, we started from the jump with it.
You did?
Yeah, from when we opened the doors with it. And that's always been part of the plan is to have you know, an offering of things that I thought were holes to fill. None of our in-house stuff is like overly complicated or hard to wear.
No, it's great. Yeah.
And it's all really easy to wear, and it's fabrics that are nice that you're going to like to touch and wear and actually break in and beat up. Like that's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also pretty seasonless. Whereas everything else here has kind of like its produce. Like at some point it rots, unfortunately. And that's just due to the nature of the industry. That shouldn't be how it is. But that's what, brands like graph paper, brands like Kamoli, like they don't mark down, which is great. Like that to me is like, you can get behind that and you can invest dollars there. A brand like A-Press also doesn't mark down. So it's like, you can get behind that mentality of like, okay, I can have this in here for however long it takes to sell, because that product will sell. I think, especially in the US market, people are getting so used to getting a discount or so used to things marking down and going on sale.
Yeah.
I think the more and more you have of things that you can control the price on, like an in-house line, is better for your business in the long run. And it's also better for your brand awareness in the long run. Because if someone picks up a pair of pants from you and they love them and they're great and they happen to have your label in the back of them, they're always going to associate that with your space. So they'll come back again.
That's true.
And they'll be like, I got these great pair of pants. They're awesome. Do you still have them? You're like, yeah, we have them in an updated fabric. Whereas some of these brands are like, we've moved on from that design. We're over it. It's done. And I think there's a really nice semblance, especially in menswear. Like it's okay to have a pant that lives for forever as long as you do fabric iterations or you tweak the fit just a little bit and correct it and get it perfect and nail it in.
Yeah, that is something I'd always admired brands like, I mean, there's tons of brands have done that, but like Engineered Garments for me was like probably one of the earlier brands that I had experience into which I'm like, oh, you always do a work shirt and just different fabrics, or you always do the Baker jacket.
Yeah, the Baker jacket, Andover jacket, things like that. They always have the HA pant that they always have. Like that to me is really cool. It's like, the HA pant is a known fit, but they give you an updated fabric, or like they'll have it in the lightweight ripstop for spring, summer. They'll have heavyweight moleskin for fall, winter. So it's like, you love the fit and you love the pattern on it. And then you're able to get an updated fabric, and that's your way for newness rather than like generating, I need this hype item, has this gigantic logo on it and all this crazy shit that I'm not going to ever wear after I get my recognition for it.
Yeah. I mean, how do you wrestle with that? Because you're not merchandising any brands in here that are hype merchandised, but you do have some stuff that, I mean, not because of you, but like there's some hype to it.
Yeah, there's definitely hype to it, but I think it's because of scarcity and it's because, the distribution model for those brands. So I think there'll continue to be that level of demand for it. And that's fine. I'm never going to buy deep enough to where it's like, okay, I have this stuff sitting on the rails forever because I've bought into that hype train. It's like, no, I'm still buying a healthy level, and I'm buying it to sell out and to get to the customers who actually want it.
Yeah.
We have a few of those brands that are like that. And unfortunately it is disappointing when people come in and they ask for it and we don't have any, but that's the nature of the beast at the moment. I think I offer a pretty fair playing field because I don't have online. So it's literally first comes in the door can get it.
Do you have phone orders? I don't know, by the way.
What we do is if you've been in the shop and shopped with us before, then we're happy to ship to you in the future. Because we want to build that like in-person client relationship first. Then we're happy to ship to you and do that side of the business. But again, I want you to come in the store first. That's the big thing, is actually being in the door, experiencing it. And to me, it's like everything we do, it's not just the clothes on the rail, but it's like the sculptures and the pottery in the space. It's the scent that we burn. It's the playlist that we have for the month. It's all about that one experience of being in the shop.
Yeah.
So like every month we do a curated playlist that's specific for whatever that mood is for that month. And that's what we play in the shop all month. And it changes.
How long is the playlist?
This one for this month, I think, is 12 hours.
Okay, good.
They're long.
Yeah.
I think the shortest one was 8. Yeah. Casey, who works at the shop, he and I work together on the playlist. I send him kind of the framework of like, here are like the 5 to 10 songs that I'm like this is the mood,
Uh-huh.
build around this mood.
Uh-huh.
And then he builds the playlist based off the initial 5 to 10 songs that I give him for the mood.
Oh.
So it's like a real,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. And I mean, Casey's a professional musician. Like
Yeah.
he still actively makes music, plays in bands. Like he's really talented. So, and he also works in the shop, you know? So,
Yeah.
which is like really cool. It's like have that thorough line through of the experience. And it's funny, we had a bit of a group meeting with the shop the other day, and it was just like, I was telling him, I was like, all of you guys are extension of this brand and the brand of the shop. Like everything that you do, like you are part of like this world. So
Mhm.
like, you should be proud of that. Like, this is an amazing place to work. This is a great brand to have out in the world. Like, the response has been wonderful. People like their experience in here, and you are a big part of that. You are that. So, like, just understand like that. It's meaningful to me. It doesn't fall, you know, on deaf ears, or, you know, it's not like you're not being seen. Like, you guys are part of the brand, which is important.
Yeah, because you went from not having a store to having arguably probably the most discussed, talked about, hyped, you know, stores in the country. I mean, in the world, probably. I mean, shit, like the New York Times profile. I mean, every other newsletter, you name it, it just boom, like Ven.Space.
Yeah. There was a need.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a hole to fill. And I think we filled it in a way that people like, where it's approachable. It doesn't feel like it's something that's, you know, I don't know. Again, it's like tangible. It's very approachable. And that's the thing to me.
Yeah. I think in a weird way, the fact that you had far more convictions in that you want to be a neighborhood store, you are focusing on an in-person experience, you're focusing on all these things that are within your control, which I think is much needed, especially in menswear, where I feel like so many brands and stores, just to like maintain a customer or to get some sort of customer acquisition cost, they would do whatever it takes to get that, which obviously you have to make more money. So then you're having to do this. And it kind of becomes this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy of, I mean, because you don't have a PR department.
No.
You don't have like a marketing department.
No.
And none of these things are criticisms. I think it's genius.
No.
It's like, look, you're just doing it.
It's me. Yeah. And like,
I mean, you didn't even have much of a staff until pretty recently.
There's 4 of us.
Yeah.
It's tight. And that's the thing. Like, that's the beauty of it. It's like, it should be tight. It does, like, again, the goal is, yes, the store needs to make money.
Yes.
But again, it's not like a greed thing. It's not like I need to be the biggest store ever and I need to be huge and I have to grow 50% season over season over season. It's like not that. It's like, I want to understand what a good level is for a profitable brick and mortar store and just capitalize on making sure the customer is getting their needs fulfilled. That's it.
Yeah, because there was a store, rhymes with Kefri, that back in the day, they had their own pricing, which was far above an MSRP that you'd find in other places.
Yeah.
And for a while, they could get by with it because there wasn't really, you know,
it wasn't exposure.
Yeah,
like,
and there wasn't as much, I don't know, competition's not the word.
It wasn't out there.
Yeah, it wasn't really out there.
Yeah.
And I did notice you don't have that you don't have like, I'm making this up, like the Ven.Space markup. Like you're at the cool store, so you pay the cool price.
No, you're paying suggested MSRP. You're like, the partners that I work with dictate what the retails are. There's not an extra retail on there. I did see something that somebody was like, oh, their markup on Japanese brands is 50 times more than it should. I was like, they dictate what my retail pricing is. I don't pick it. So like, it just happens
there's not
to be,
much margin on Japanese brands.
There really isn't. And
Yeah.
I to dispel the, I guess a lot of people they might participate in the industry, but they don't really know how it works.
Yeah. And you don't have to open up the chocolate factory.
No, I don't need to open it up. But like, to be clear, it's like, we're not pricing on a whim. We're not marking up some random markups. We're great partners with our vendors. If they give us the suggested MSRP, we go by their guideline of suggested MSRP. You know, I'm not trying to gouge any higher because I have something rare or sought after. Like, I could do that with a couple brands that are literally nowhere.
Easily. Yep.
But I don't, because again, you have to think long term. You can't think just in the moment. Like, in the long term, for us to have that trust back and forth with not only our partners, but with our customers, I'm going to give them the fair price that's being dictated by the brand.
Yeah.
There's no need to go, okay, now you're coming to us. There's an extra 10% on top of that.
Yeah.
Which is that to me is just crazy.
It is. And I think
I know people do it, but it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that there isn't, you could have easily done that with some of these brands. Be like, sorry, this is what it costs here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's fair if you did, but that is definitely not the case. And I say that as a person because I'm aware of that criticism, which I was like, fuck off, man. Like, I think also you're just going to get, and this is the shitty thing of running any sort of business. There's so many things that you can't control. And there's always going to be some type of, I think probably more in the menswear industry, because in a weird way, like people educate themselves through criticisms. And that like people are just going to make shit up. And people are just going to try to go after stuff because they're, pissed because whatever, someone wasn't available in their size or, and it's like, sorry.
Yeah. We've definitely we've taken our flack for not having things or something selling too quickly before someone could get it or, I understand. But again, if you
this isn't McDonald's, man.
But if you rock with us, we'll be able to help you. I promise. Like I will do whatever I can to get what you want. Just communicate. And I actually had a customer in the store. He was like, "Why don't you have this in X, Y, and Z side? I had to go here. I had to do." I was like, "We're small. I couldn't gauge demand. I bought this product 6 to 8 months ago before I was even open. My assumption was that I would have 10 customers a week. So, we're doing a little better than that, but." Again, like, just let me know what you need and I'll get it for you. Trust me, I'll figure it out. Whether it's this season or next season, I'm happy to dig and hunt and do whatever to find what you need as a customer. And again, like, that's where we pride ourselves on. Like, we have a great staff who's willing to go on that adventure with you. And especially like as we go into booking future seasons, I'm down to share the world with the clients and be like, okay, we have this coming. Whoever wants it, let me know. We'll get one for you. We'll get your size. We're happy to commit to that. And we're happy to get the color that you want. That's kind of the service level that we want to offer. And I think you can only do that if you're a certain size. The bigger you get, I think you can't do that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And I want to be at that size where we can do that for our top customers, and we can also do that for maybe someone who's their first purchase. That they're treated on the same level of like, let me go get it for you. Let me figure out how to get this for you and get what you want.
It almost makes me, and I'm like just thinking of this while we're talking, it almost makes me think that like, because when you talked about online, you had said like yet, as in like maybe there is a plan to do it, but it almost based on all the things you're saying, it does make me wonder like maybe you should just never be online.
No, I say online yet because I don't ever want it to not be an option.
Okay.
And the thing for me is like, if we do online, it's going to be our way. It's not going to be your traditional sense of being online.
Yeah.
And being 24/7 and ship wherever for free and free returns and all that mess. It's definitely going to be in the way that I want to do online and how I want to be serviced online. And maybe it starts with just our in-house line, or maybe it starts with objects, or maybe it starts some way else, or maybe it's just communication. But I never want to say that's not an option for having online because, I get it. Like modern times, you have to have some sort of digital footprint or digital life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a landing page that shows our address and shows
our hours,
and
you're
shows
on Google Maps and Apple Maps.
Yeah, we're on all that stuff, and like we have Instagram and we communicate with that. But outside of that, like there's no like hard evidence of like, okay, we're launching online in autumn 25, and the full brand matrix is going to be available, and we're ready to go. Like that, we're not there, and I don't think we're gonna get there. And my plan isn't to take it that way.
Yeah, I think that's honestly a good idea. I mean, and I'll say this as a person who's worked with brands and helped brands go online and do things. Whenever people have been like, yeah, okay, can you map out a budget, of what it actually costs to do that? I always tell people, I'm like, you're making another store.
Yeah, it's another store.
And it's a store that has this level of overhead.
Yeah.
This level, it is not just like, oh, you're factoring in a Shopify fee.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a ton of work and honestly, a ton of money.
Yeah. It's a ton of money. I've trust me, I've looked at it.
Yeah.
It's a ton
sure.
It's a ton of money. And it's not like that portion doesn't scare me as much because like I understand the investment side of it. I mean, I worked for two places that were major online businesses, like where a majority of their business was online. And they had to sell the imagery, that the whole thing. And I think the imagery was beautiful that both of those places put forth. Doesn't mean I won't be able to do the same level of imagery and put forth, just won't be available for purchase traditionally like an online shop. I mean, if you're familiar with the Women's Space at all, Outline Brooklyn, they're up the street. Wonderful women's shop, beautiful curation, beautiful space, wonderful staff, wonderful owners. They were brick and mortar only. They launched online. They just took online off, and then they just issued a catalog, physical catalog, beautifully done. And now they have an online catalog where it's basically like shopping the catalog, where it puts it in cart, but then you have to call.
Oh, that's genius.
Which is that to me that's a perfect online experience because you still have to deal with someone and you still have to talk to the shopkeeper or the person working in the store. That to me is a great experience. And that is like the one-to-one, which I want the customer to have. I want to be able to take online and have it one-to-one, where you're still actually working with someone and they're making sure you get exactly what you need.
It's funny because as much as if you said like, oh, do you want to have someone talk to you? In my head, I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with it. No, I don't. But like for the stuff that you have, I do. Okay, perfect example. So we were, and this, I'll say this. So when I came here a little early and there were these pants and I wanted to try them on and I knew what size.
Yeah, you knew.
I was like, I want this size.
You knew.
And it was only because I'd been familiar with the brand. I'd seen the brand in another place.
Yep. And you wear the brand. You have the brand. You know your size in the brand.
And you were like, well, maybe you want to try this other size.
Yeah. Because everybody here, everybody here that works here has to try everything on that comes in the store. They have to try everything on. They have to know how it fits. They have to know the material composition, everything. Like that is, they have to. Like that, everything gets tried on from the staff.
Oh, that's genius.
It has to. And for me,
that is not normal. In a good way.
I feel like it is.
It should be,
I feel like
that
should be the expectation. If you're having to sell a garment that's a pair of pants that are $500, you better know how they fit, what the fabric feels like. You better know what it's made out of, and things like that. So for me, it's like that pant. I went through the same dilemma that you do because I wear the same size you do in that, and I knew for preference, it's like if I wear it this way, the pant has a certain fit and feel.
Mm-hmm.
If I wear it a size up, the actual end use of that pant is different.
Yes.
And it feels like a totally different pant.
Yeah.
And it feels like, okay, this is actually the intent that I wanted this pant to fit this hole in. Whereas the traditional size feels a little bit more like buttoned up and like not the vibe that I wanted out of this pant, especially with how good the wash is on that pant.
Yes.
So I wanted it to have a little more edge. So like, let me go up a size. And that's what I saw when I tried it on. I was going between the two and I was like, even though the size up is a little bit big on the waist, but it's giving me exactly what I want everywhere else, that's the way I would go. And that's how I want to inform my consumer. If they want a more traditional thing, that's where they're going. But you're not going to get that online. You're not going to get that detailed explanation, and you're not going to get that back and forth, and you're not going to get it. Because to me, it's like, I'm not trying to convince you or sell you.
No.
I'm giving you the point of view of someone who's experienced the product and knows the product really well.
Because you're like, well, why don't you just try the other size on?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. It's like, look, we've done the work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't want to accept it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because that's your choice. Your choice is to go this other realm and you want it to be this way.
Yeah.
But we're here to show you, hey, this is how, if we think, if you're trying to fit, because you told me you were looking for this thing.
Yeah.
So like, let me try to fill that need. I can fill it this way, but it just has to be the size that you're not.
Yeah.
Technically.
And I think this is going to tick off the keyboard cowboys, but like it really, I mean, it's because and I'll say this too, there is a brand that you carry that we hung out with and I had messaged them about some stuff, and they were like, yeah, you need to tell us your size. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, here's my size. And I get a thing.
Yeah.
And I get it. And what I didn't realize, that even though that's my size, it's not my size.
No.
So now I have it.
Yeah. And
And
now you
then-
won't wear it.
And I won't wear it.
Yeah.
And then what I ended up having to do was then go buy the other size
Yep.
that wasn't my size,
Yep.
that is my size.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
now I have it twice.
Yep.
And I also am ticked. And so I'm like, what the?
Yeah. Again, like that's it comes with, and again, that's why I think brick and mortar is so important. Is becomes experience of being with the product and touching it and feeling it
Yeah.
and understanding the difference. Because a lot of these things that we do carry, like you could probably wear between 3 sizes of
Yes.
the same garment. The nuance between the sizes, it changes with if you go up or down.
And that, I don't think a lot of men understand that. You know, like my brother-in-law, he's like, look, I find a brand, I know my size in that brand, and then I'll buy it forever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and this is no shade to him at all. I mean, I love him dearly, but like in my head, there's also a certain way, and I think your customer gets this too. There's a certain way I want to present myself in that brand.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking, is I was like, well,
Exactly.
I kind of want this little sloppier fit
Yep.
because of this fabric and
Exactly.
this. And
Yep.
I don't think that people always get that.
No,
Yeah.
and I honestly think like I have a lot of those conversations here every day when on the sales floor, and they only start to understand that once you build the trust.
Yeah.
And once you build the trust, it becomes a back and forth conversation where it's like you can give that suggestion, and they're open to it.
Yeah.
I had a customer in earlier this morning who it was the same thing. Like it took us a good 20 minutes to build a rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the rapport was there, like the suggestions, we could try this on. This is meant to fit this way.
Yeah.
This is the end goal. Like, is it within your wheelhouse or not within your wheelhouse?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see like that guard come down and him be very responsive towards that. And even his partner that he was with, she started to understand, and she started to be like, okay, yeah, now, because she was helping him like kind of build his closet a little bit. And she's like, okay, now I can understand like how to wear this thing. And with menswear, it's like, women's wear is like, it just have so many different options and different cuts for everything like that. Men's is like, I think more nuanced.
Well, and also there is, and this is something I never really thought of, and I want to be conscious of your time, but I want to get through this one thing. There's a lot of, and I share this a lot of body image issues that I wrestle with.
Same.
And so there's a certain size, like, okay, I'll say this.
Yeah. It's
There was a
vanity
brand,
thing.
yeah, and I'm like, I had to buy this jean. I don't know, I'm making this up now. It was like a size 36
Yeah.
in the jean.
Yeah.
And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm not a 36.
Yeah.
I work really hard so I can be a 32 and a half
Yeah.
or a 30,
Yeah, 30,
whatever
30.
that is. And I didn't really start to think about this more until I really had to reconcile my body image issues with like, oh no, I'm a 4 or I'm a 3
Yeah.
or I'm like, yeah, because now that's actually not a number that's really tied to anything.
True.
And it kind of helped me be more okay with my own weird body image issues and like, oh, I'm never a large or I'm never an extra large. I'm always a medium.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I didn't really come to this like epiphany until recently. Because I mean, and a lot of other people, I'd shared this like pod where I was talking about how fucking hard it is, like weighing myself all the time or, only allowing a certain type of food or stop, not eat, intermittent, whatever it is.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, all that
Only
crap.
eating from 12 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all because of my clothes and how I want to look and feel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, your self-image. Yeah.
but it's
Yeah, our goal
Yeah.
is to make you feel good about whatever size you're wearing. I don't care about the number, just as long as you think you look good and feel cool. That's it. As long as you're going to wear it too. That's the big thing for me. I want people to wear what they buy.
So what are your thoughts on, and we'll do this and then wrap. What are your thoughts on like, if you buy something new, do you ever like kind of let it marinate in the wardrobe, or do you get it and then you're wearing that for a while?
Yeah, I'm really bad. I'm a horrible consumer because I overconsume. I have a problem.
Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I know. I like stuff.
Hey, me too.
And, I mean, honestly, that's a big part of why I opened a store because I like stuff. But I do find myself wearing newer things, but I do find myself latching on to, it could be new, but I do find myself latching on to like things where I'm like, okay, this is something that I really love, so I'm going to wear it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, case in point, this silk jacket from Kamoli that I'm wearing, it's like
beautiful.
I haven't taken it off since I've gotten it, and I wear it maybe 4 or 5 times a week, which that's a lot for a piece, a new piece, especially when I'm surrounded with clothing.
So you didn't get that and put it in your closet because you're too scared to wear it because you didn't want to get a stain on it.
No, and the thing is like, if they never make this again, I'm going to be fucking sad as hell the minute I blow out the elbow or whatever.
Sure.
But
then you can repair it.
I can. No, I will. And I will. But like, if it gets ruined, like I'll be sad, but then I'll always have the times I wore it. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
Yeah. You make friends along the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I do think like, that's a great one. I mean, I don't think I have ever purchased anything so precious that I've tucked it away for forever. I've definitely bought stuff off season cycle where I'm like, I'm saving this for the season because it's not weather appropriate.
Well, that's different. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, nothing that I've been like so precious about where it's like, oh, I don't want to mess it up.
So you hear that? All right, folks, wear
what
clothes.
you buy. Wear your clothes.
Preach.
Yeah,
Chris,
wear your clothes.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for seeing me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cheers, man.
Bye.
You've been listening to Blamo. Our show is produced by Blamo Media. We're edited by Amar Lowell, and our theme music, as always, by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. If you like what you heard, you know the drill. Share the pod with a friend. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever other thing you're listening to us on, whether it's Dingledorp or Bing Bong, whatever it's called. But you can also follow us on Instagram for all the hot content. If you want to talk to us and give us your hot take, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at info@blamopod.com. Last but not least, super ultra important. If I had a air horn, I would press it right now. You got to come and join us over on Patreon because the fun never stops over there. Look, the live show, the free show, whatever you want to call this, we take breaks here and there, but Patreon, it never stops. And we also got exclusive shows like Dye Workwear, hosted by Derek Guy and Peter Zotolo, and the Triple J Show, hosted by yours truly with John Moy and Gene DeLeon. There's just a ton of stuff over there. So check it out at patreon.com/Blamo. If not, no worries. We got hundreds and hundreds of free episodes in the feed and more to come. So we will see you all soon.